Internet friends. On August 8th, 2023, the historic town of Lahaina on the island of Maui, a popular tourist spot, was destroyed by a fire that seemingly came out of nowhere. As of Monday morning, August 14th, the death toll sits at 96. An estimated 2,200 acres have been burned. Over 2,000 buildings have been reduced to ash, and of those buildings, 86% of them were residential homes. The investigation is ongoing, loved ones are still missing, but alongside the rubble and ruin, questions remain. In this video, my goal is to give a voice to Maui residents and their eyewitness accounts, highlight key facts that have been completely buried, provide relevant historical context, and ultimately, share with you what the media won't tell you about the Maui fires. Not so long ago, the band of islands we call Hawaii was a sovereign state known as the Kingdom of Hawaii. Because of its key location in the Pacific Ocean and its fertile ground, Hawaii was historically a prized place for trade. However, the kingdom fell when the United States gobbled it up under the whole notion of manifest destiny. With a little help from the US government, a group of American and European businessmen overthrew the Hawaiian monarchy. You see, the Hawaiian Islands offered a key position for a U.S. military base and would aid in the development of the U.S. as a global superpower. And thus, the final queen of the Kingdom of Hawaii was deposed in 1893. From then on, Hawaii played a key role on the world stage. Just think about it. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, which occurred on December 7, 1941, had a significant effect on the United States and was crucial in influencing the government's decision to enter World War II. It was also key in rallying the emotional support for war from U.S. troops and civilians alike. Nearly a century later, there is open discourse on the idea that President Roosevelt either let it happen, as in he had foreknowledge of Pearl Harbor and did nothing, or he caused it to happen, the same conversation we have about George W. Bush. Alas, Americans would not and could not give their consent to war without a reason. They just needed to be given one. Problem, reaction, solution. At 11 a.m. on August 4th, 2023, it was reported by satellites that a handful of small fires had started on Maui around the same time. No cause has officially been given, and this is a key detail that I just want to emphasize. It wasn't just one fire that was started, but several at once. On Tuesday morning, August 8th, Lahaina, once the Kingdom of Hawaii's capital city, began to witness wildfires. Lahaina is a small town located in Maui, and in the Hawaiian language, Lahaina means cruel or merciless sun. Survivors of the fire reported that there were no sirens or warnings when the fire started, only strong winds that brought distant fire into the residential areas within minutes. According to emergency officials, Maui's warning sirens didn't sound as devastating wildfires approached as they should have. On the island of Maui, there are 80 outdoor sirens to alert residents of tsunamis and other natural disasters. But those sirens were totally silent as people burned to death. According to investigators, quote, "Nobody at the state and nobody at the county attempted to activate those sirens based on our records," end quote. Emergency alert texts were reportedly sent out, but due to the rate at which these fires spread, the towers were down, the power lines were down, and people weren't receiving those alerts on their phones or TVs, all of which contributed to the chaos. The fires were so intense and spread so rapidly that the U.S. Coast Guard saved over 50 individuals after some people fled the fire by jumping into the Pacific Ocean. The fires were still active the following day, and locals reported being barred off from bringing supplies to the affected areas to even search for their loved ones and render aid. And this is another weird, strange detail. The incident commander of the 2017 Las Vegas country music mass shooting, one of the biggest cover-ups in U.S. history, just happens to be Maui's police chief, John Pelletier, who said the following about the fires.
We find these, our family and our friends. The remains we're finding is through a fire that melted metal. We know we got to go quick, but we got to do it right. So when we pick up the remains and they fall apart, and so when you have 200 people running through the scene yesterday, And some of you, that's what you're stepping on. I don't know how much more you want me to describe it.
Hawaii Governor Josh Green said the town looked like a bomb had been dropped, and he wasted no time blaming the fires on climate change. Of course, mainstream media ran with this narrative and has blamed humans for living and vacationing in Maui for the wildfires. Which brings us into a whole other conversation entirely. Who is actually responsible for the wildfires in Maui? According to some locals, bad government and poor land management is to blame, as dry, non-native, invasive grasses weren't properly cleared in previous years, which served as perfect tinder under the right conditions, strong winds and drought. And I want you to remember what we talked about earlier. Satellites picked up all these fires across the island igniting around the same time, same day, the morning of August 4th. It wasn't just one fire. It was multiple fires across Maui. And I'm not trying to interject my opinion when I'm just giving you the facts, but that in particular sticks out to me, and I find it weird. So, of course, there's already a wrongful death lawsuit brewing, and, quote, legal teams from Watts-Guerra, Singleton, Schreiber, and France law group firms have all independently reached the conclusion that Hawaiian Electric's compromised infrastructure served as the ignition source for the inferno, end quote. And I just want to point out that according to the World Economic Forum in an article that they published in 2018, Hawaii plans to be the first U.S. state to run entirely on clean energy, with clean energy being defined as solar, wind, biomass, and geothermal green power. And after someone sent me that article, I was reading up on how our current power grid will stand up to the clean energy goals of the future. And basically, the corporations are lobbying for our entire power grid to be replaced. So if you fault Hawaiian Electric, sue them for all they're worth, put them out of business, who replaces them? Will it be whoever's going to bring forth the goals of Agenda 2030 in the World Economic Forum? So attorneys are blaming the electric company, probably because the electric company has the deepest pocket. The governor is blaming climate change, and other people are blaming land mismanagement, while others are whispering about directed energy weapons. And I know I never talk about directed energy weapons, and you all know this, not because I deny their existence, but it's like conspiracy quicksand over here. It's too easy for people to dismiss because fires can be attributed to many things. But there's just this glaring coincidence one cannot overlook for this particular fire. AFRL's Directed Energy Directorate is the Department of the Air Force Center of Expertise for Directed Energy and Optical Technologies. They specialize in directed energy weapons that harness the power of the electromagnetic spectrum to enable airmen to effectively and affordably strike critical targets, all at the speed of light. According to their website, the AFRL Directed Energy Directorate operates 2 major telescope sites that are used to advance SSA technologies. One of these sites is located on the Kirkland Air Force Base in New Mexico, and the other site is located on, you'll never guess it, the other site is located on Maui. The Maui site is called the Air Force Maui Optical and Supercomputing Site. So let's go down the list. A little logical little assessment here. Do direct energy weapons exist that can cause wildfires? According to U.S. government websites, yes. Does the U.S. government have the ability to use those resources? According to the U.S. government website, yes. If the U.S. government has this tool, does it mean other countries have this tool? And could they use it on the U.S.? Theoretically, yes. Would wildfires sparked by direct energy weapons serve their Hegelian dialectic of problem-reaction-solution, policy changes and narrative shifts and sustainable development goals and whatnot? Sure. Can we prove that they used a directed energy weapon and that it was the U.S. government who used it? Me personally, I'm going to say not at this moment. No, we can't prove it. But what I will say is that if I were on the ground in Maui and I had a basic understanding of local politics and procedures, and I decided to dig deeper on this story, I would probably want to know who fled the wildfires before anyone else, who from government or high society was evacuated before the traffic jams and all the chaos started. And I would also want to watch who benefits from the destruction. The average residential home in Maui is just at the median price of $1.2 million. Can insurance companies afford to rebuild thousands of homes in this area? Can families who didn't have homeowners insurance afford to rebuild their homes and businesses? With the rapid inflation we've experienced over the past couple years, the cost of building has increased substantially. What will insurance cover? Because I'm imagining a scenario where residents are left with land and no means to rebuild, nowhere to live in the interim, and yeah, that would make it hard to say no to offers on your property.
You know, there have been reports of looting and civil unrest. I mean, I saw, you know, a few kind of rough-looking people when I was down here, but I mean, nothing happened. But it might be a good idea to stay out of here for the time being. And you can see over there, you know, there was multi-million-dollar beachfront houses were lost. You know, I mean, I know every house on Maui nowadays is almost every house is going to be over $1 million. But all of my neighbors and I are interested in what the news actually is, because we don't have access to the internet, not cellular, not cable internet. We don't have a TV. We do have the radio, but for whatever reason, the radio out here continues to just mainly play music. I've heard very few broadcasts of news, and I don't know if that's just my timing of listening to it, but there's really been very little information.
I live on Maui. The media is lying and or covering up the extent of the damage and the death count. I personally know people that are telling me the death and destruction is way worse than we're being told. I am witnessing the cover-up by the media firsthand.
So my final question that the media would never ask is, are we witnessing a land grab at fire sale prices in the future? What do you think, internet friends? You know, I always look forward to reading your comments. Thank you so much for watching, subscribing, supporting my channel on Patreon, and buying my book, The Deep State Encyclopedia. Bye.
يا عذرا
جينا عند اختي سلمى ما تقدر. يا لطيف. قدر